Hello, everybody! On behalf of the Highland Park Public Library, we'd like to welcome you to Library in Your Living Room. We are pleased to present Shelf Isolation, a weekly mini-series about books, culture, and what to read next. I'm Sarah Marie, and this is your Information and Reader Services Department. In this episode, we are excited to share with you what we have been reading, watching, and/or listening to during Shelf Isolation. To begin our mini-series, I'm going to turn things over to Readers Roundtable expert and moderator, Michelle.
Thanks, Sarah Marie. So first, I just started a new audiobook. It's called The Girls in the Garden. It's by Jewell. I just started it, but I'm really excited. It's really good so far, so I can't wait to tell you guys more about it next time. This is actually the second book by Jewell that I've read. The first one was Watching You, which is about a murder that happens in an influential Bristol, England neighborhood where everybody has their secrets and everybody is watching you. Second, as I'm sure you have been doing, I've been trying to get out as much as I can by taking walks. So I've been revisiting a podcast. It's called Welcome to Nightvale. It is a podcast that is in the format of a local radio station in the small desert town of Nightvale, where there are many strange happenings afoot and there are many, many interesting people in the town. It's really good. It's just a lot of fun. And if you do like Welcome to Nightvale and you didn't know, they actually also have 3 novels that they've published that you can check out whenever we're back in the library. So that's actually all that I have for today. So I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, this week I read something a little bit different. It's called Live a Little, and it is by Howard Jacobson. It is really a funny, wonderful book. It's about 2 90-year-olds that kind of happen upon meeting each other. One of the characters' name is Beryl, and she is losing her memory. And then there's Jimmy, a man who's in his 90s, and he has his memory, which he would like to forget. And some of their good attributes are he can walk unassisted without a cane, so all the widows really like him. And then also he can talk without spitting. And then she, on the other hand, she likes to pretend she's forgetting more than she has, but she writes things down on index cards, mostly about her past love life. I guess she was quite the man stealer in her day. Remember, they're in their 90s, and so she's also quite into needle pointing, and she does death needle pointing or death samplers. I'm just going to read a really quick one that she comes up with, but I highly recommend this book. I was laughing out loud. So this is what she does. He died in great pain, but turned his eyes to God and never once complained. I will see you, he told his wife on the other side. She didn't have the heart to contradict him. But anyway, so it's like these really funny samplers that she does. And it's just really a nice story. They just stumble upon meeting each other. And it's just really, really enjoyable. And then the other thing I've been doing is on Acorn. They have Wilkie Collins, the Moonstone, a series now. He is considered to be the first person to write a detective story, which was in 1868 when the Moonstone came out. And if you have Acorn, it's an excellent series. And that's all I have for today, and I'm going to turn it over to Gus.
Thank you, Stephanie. So, aside from doing my usual housework, I wanted to read something very fitting with the current situation. So, I've been reading a book by the screenwriter of Jurassic Park. It is called Cold Storage by David Koepp. It's a fun book. It's fiction. It is about a bio-terror operative named Roberto Diaz, and he's sent to investigate a biochemical attack. But what he finds is something worse. It is an actual mutated organism that has the capability of extinction level destruction. So he has contained it and he buried it, but it has come back, and he needs to contain it again. It's a fun book. I don't know, it's kind of fitting. Highly recommended. Also, I've been playing my games a little bit, not that much, but I do recommend one called Doom Eternal. This is not for the lighthearted. It is very violent, I want to say. It's rated M, so be careful if you do go out and buy it. The library does own it, so when we do open up, I highly recommend it. Doom Eternal is probably the best, in my opinion, this is just me, probably the best first-person shooter on the PS4 and Xbox One. And it's also coming to the Switch. And I know I haven't been giving the Xbox One a lot of love, but I do want to show off my new controller that I got for the Xbox One. I know everybody wants one of these. It is Cyberpunk 2077 edition, which is coming out, I think, next month or two. So that's all I've been doing, cold storage and Doom Eternal. With that, I'm going to give it over to Karen.
Okay, thanks, Gus. First, I want to report on my progress in the large book called The Killing that I've been working on. The author's name is David Hewson, and it's based on a Danish TV series. Well, this weekend, I got about here, maybe 3/4 of an inch left, and they found the killer. Unfortunately, they also had a valuable witness get killed, and killer ends up being unable to talk, unable to answer questions, and so they think, well, this must be it. But then some more details emerge, and now I'm here. I'm making it last because I'm trying to guess along with detectives who really did do it. So we know who did part of it, but that's not the whole story. So that's that. And as I walk around my subdivision lately, I'm reading Fred Vargas' last book so far, the most recent one she's written, called This Poison Will Remain. And I'm doing it only in audio. I've seen the book, but I don't have it with me, so I'm most of the way through. I think I'll be fine, but I would like to see it, just to see it written down for some reason. I don't know. And after I finish those two books, I think I might start looking more at Canopy and Hoopla for movies and TV series, because I noticed that the Media Services Department is going to have a discussion of a movie called The Farewell, which came out last year, and I was very interested to see. They say it's on Hoopla. I don't think I'll see it in time for the discussion on Friday, but I do want to see that. So that's it for me, and I think Sarah is next.
Thanks, Karen. So I have a few recommendations this week. So the last few weeks I've been recommending books that my 18-month-old likes, but he's still just obsessed with the Richard Scarry cars and trucks and things that go. So for a slightly different recommendation, I have a parenting book that is on Hoopla, How to Raise a Reader. I actually read this a while ago, but I was looking at it today and realized that it is a Hoopla bonus borrow. So if you want to check it out, it does not count towards your 10 checkouts per month, but it's essentially a guide to how to help your children learn to love books, mostly by having a whole lot of them in your house, which you can check out from the library when we're open. Each chapter is focused on an age group, so babies, toddlers, preschoolers, middle grade, and so on, and then has a list of recommended books at the end of the chapter, and it's a mix of like classic books and newer picture books. So a great parenting book. Now my other books this week, I finally listened to Daisy Jones and the Six. I think Michelle recommended a different Taylor Jenkins Reid book a couple weeks ago. This is fictional oral history of a band from the 1970s. I know this book was really popular last year. It came out in March 2019, and it wasn't really the kind of thing that drew my interest, but I had listened to another book that was narrated by Julia Whelan and really enjoyed it. So that's actually what I want to recommend, is that on either Libby or Hoopla, you can search by narrator. So if you find an audiobook that you really like, search by the narrator. You'll see it'll list the author's name, and then the narrator's usually listed right after them. And you might find some books that aren't necessarily what you would normally read, but turn out to be really great. I really enjoyed this one. My final read this week is Daring and the Duke by Sarah Maclean. This is a new book out in June. This is the third book in a romance trilogy. The first two are Brazen and the Beast and Wicked and the Wallflower. Those are both available currently on Libby, both in audiobook and ebook. It's the story of three brothers set in Covent Garden in London during the Regency period, and they're sort of in the London underbelly. Not all the characters are titled. There's some brothels, a lot of drama. They're a lot of fun. So want to recommend that series, and now I will pass it on to Sarah Marie.
Thank you, Sarah. This week, I'm going to talk about something that I reread recently. It would be Sonali Dev's Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors. The novel is set in Bay Area, California, and features a slightly estranged Chisha Raj, a brain surgeon extraordinaire, who is a little nervous to be back around her family in the midst of her brother's race to be governor. And also Chef Darcy, DJ Kane, who was hired to cater a campaign event and really hopes to turn this one job into many jobs. Naturally, these two do not get along, as the narrative has a definite enemies who have to reluctantly work together vibe, but the writing is really, really well done and has alternating points of view. Darcy is a chef, Trish and Trisha's family is Indian, so I cannot tell you how hungry this book made me with its lush descriptions of flavors. And the side characters are just really tremendously lived in and well written. This is a Pride and Prejudice adaptation, which is why I originally picked it up. I chose to reread it because it is just such a fun novel, and I needed that this week. But also because its sequel, Recipe for Persuasion, will be published the last Tuesday in May on the 26th, and I am just terribly excited about it. Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors is available on both Libby and on Hoopla, so please treat yourself to reading it. The other thing I want to plug this week is honestly just the concept of rereading. I am a huge fan of rereading, and the only physical books that I have actually kept in my multiple moves around the city and between states are those that I cannot help but rereading over and over again. Michelle and I have probably made our coworkers sit through what is possibly the same way too long discussion of our love for rereading many times in the back offices. I encourage you all to pick up the books that you love and give them a reread during this time. There's nothing more comforting, and I honestly always find something that I am either coming to from a new perspective in my life or that I had missed the first 6 times I had reread it. If you want to ramble on with me about a love for rereading, please by all means drop us an email at hppla@hplibrary.org. And now I'm going to turn things over to Lisa.
Okay, so this week I'm reading The Catherine House. This is an ARC or an advanced reading copy, but the book got published yesterday, so it is something that you can get. The book is about a exclusive college called The Catherine House, which if you get in on a full ride scholarship, but you have to agree to cease contact with the outside world for 3 years. And the main character goes on recommendation of her high school teacher because she's looking to sort of get away from some stuff that happened in her past. This isn't the sort of thing I usually read, so I'm not sure if I like it or I just find it supremely interesting because it's so different. Either way, I'm enjoying the process of reading it. So if you want to look for it online, I think it is available. And then finally, I did just find out yesterday that Hoopla extended their bonus borrows up to May 31st. So I'm really excited about that. And one of the things I'm excited about is now John Mulaney's New in Town is apparently a Hoopla bonus borrow. So John Mulaney is a comedian who has hosted SNL 3 times now. Each time it's been great, and he's one of my favorite stand-up artists. So you can listen to the audio CD, and this New in Town is one of my favorite sets of his. I think I like Kid Gorgeous a little better now, but this was like my favorite for years. So definitely check that one out. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. This week, I read a historical fiction book called Lady in the Lake by Laura Lippman. And this takes place in Baltimore during 1965, 1966. It's about Madame Schwartz, who is been married about 20 years. Her husband, Milton, brings home a gentleman for dinner, somebody who Maddie went to school with. And she got to thinking about her life back when she was in high school and the dreams she had. So she decided basically she wasn't living the life she wanted to live. So she leaves Milton and her son Seth and starts her life over again. She wants to be a newspaper reporter. So she tries to get a job at one of the Baltimore newspapers. She becomes obsessed with a murder case about Cleo Sherwood, who is a young Black woman who was killed. And Maddie wants to know who killed her and why she was killed. So she becomes obsessed with this case, and it drives her life. It's a very interesting book. I love Laura Lippman's books. She really writes some very well written books. And it doesn't have as much suspense as some of her books, but it's a very good book to read. It's, of course, available in print and in audio at the library, but it's also on Libby in both the ebook and the e-audio book. The next book I'm reading, and I'm not quite through with it yet, I'm about halfway through, is called The Bride Task by Helen Hong. And this is about a young gentleman named Kai, and the book starts with him at 16. He's at his cousin and best friend's funeral, and he's seeing his family, the grief that's expressing. He doesn't feel the grief. He happens to be autistic. So he doesn't feel the grief, and he decides that he also can't feel other emotions like love. So 10 years later, when he's 26, his mother decides she's going to find a bride for him. So she goes to Vietnam, where the family's from, and tries to find a bride. She meets Mai, who is a housekeeper at the hotel she's staying in Ho Chi Minh City. And she decides she would be the perfect bride. Lamai is a single mother of a 5-year-old. She doesn't tell them that she's a single mother of a 5-year-old, but she took this opportunity to pretend to be Kai's fiance for the summer because she wanted to make a better life for her child. So she comes to the United States with a new name. Her daughter decides that she looks like Esmeralda from Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, so she becomes Esme. This is a very cute book because Kai doesn't quite understand Esme's issues, and Esme doesn't really know he's autistic, just knows he's different. It's very cute, it's very humorous, and it's a perfect beach read. So you may want to pick this available in Libby as both an ebook and an e-audio book, and the e-audio book is also hoopla. Okay, so I'm going to now turn it over to William.
Thank you, Jackie. One of the things that I picked up from my bookshelf was As the Crow Flies by Melanie Gilman, which you can find in our collection. It's the story of a queer Black teen youth backpacking camp whose ideas are far from progressive. As a person who's always been a sucker for coming of age stories and has a great love for fiction that represents the full spectrum of humanity, I really enjoy the way that Gilman captures the feeling of trying to stay true to oneself in the face of being in an environment that is not as supportive as it could be. It also reminds me of the first time I heard about the book, which was at a comic book meetup. And the gentleman who described the book to me prefaced it by saying that he was not a person who liked to read webcomics, because when he read his comics, they were generally done in the comfort of his bathtub. And he had poor eyesight. And to read a webcomic, he'd have to get the phone really close to his face. And after a while, it would just start to make him sick. And this, I should say, started out as a webcomic. He then went on to say that this book was worth getting a headache over, because in addition to being very well done and very well written, this book is just beautiful. Like, I mean, I don't know if I can just show some of the pages here. And all of this art was done with color pencils. So there's no digital touch-ups or anything like that. I loved it as a webcomic. When they did the Kickstarter to publish it, I was one of the first in line for this first volume. That's why I got my nice little piece right there. If they do a second volume and that eventually comes out, I'll be the first one there for that. So it's in our collection. You should check it out. As the Crow Flies. The other thing I've been doing is board gaming. With stay-at-home orders, something like that's been really hard, but not impossible. There's a website, tabletopia.com, that you can go to, and they provide digital versions of tabletop board games. And rather than just being a straight computer game, they provide digital versions of the chits, the cards, and the other supplies that you can manipulate and let you play the game as if you were just around the table with your friends. One of the ones my primary gaming group and I have been doing is Wingspan by Elizabeth Hargrave and published by Stonemaier Games. It's a 2 to 5 player game where you play bird enthusiasts attempting to put together the best bird sanctuary. And here I got like pieces. So this is the art from the game. The game is beautiful. Like, look at this. So you got cards, they do things. At the bottom, it tells you real life facts about all the birds. It also comes with cute chits. I got rats and fish and little like berries and whatnot. There's a dice tower that looks like a birdhouse. I mean, it's just a totally gorgeous game, one of my favorites, and I'm really glad I get to still continue to share with my friends. And maybe one day, hey, I'll even win it. That's Wingspan, and next up is Catherine.
Thank you, Will, and hi, everyone. The book that I have to share this time is Antkind by Charlie Kaufman. Charlie Kaufman, as you may know, is the famous filmmaker. This is his first novel, but he's famous for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Synecdoche, New York, adaptation. This book is definitely a good one if you like his movies. If you hate his movies, you're probably not going to like this book, and you should maybe decide beforehand because it is a doozy at 700 pages. This book was originally scheduled to be published yesterday, so it's not out yet because it got pushed back until July. So, you know, we're looking to the future here. The book is kind of surreal. The protagonist is a middle-aged man who is a film critic who hates Charlie Kaufman. He does love Judd Apatow, and he's kind of a buffoon because he's really, really concerned about using politically correct language, but then he manages to be a racist and sexist pretty much all the time. And he's just kind of bizarre. And in the first chapter, I thought, is it going to be this guy for the whole book? Well, it is, but I have to say there are so many one-liners and funny things about this book that I laughed out loud so many times. The plot is meandering, but it basically has to do with this film critic going from New York to Florida to do research in a film archive. And while he's there, he encounters this strange old man who has spent 90 years making a movie. The movie is 3 months long. And this critic thinks, great, this is going to be like the discovery that makes my career. Then he spends the next 3 months watching the movie, and it just gets more and more strange and bizarre from there. And there's so many little things that you think, okay, we've like totally moved on. Now we're crawling through a cave. And then all of a sudden something from like 300 pages comes back. And you think, wow, I can't believe he even remembered that part of the plot by the time we got here. But it is very funny, and so if you like Charlie Kaufman's movies, then I do recommend this book. Look for it to come out, I think, in the latter part of July. And from there, we will go to Nancy.
Thank you, Catherine. So I'm going to continue a little bit first with the Joy of Rereading. For those of you who don't know, the library provides access to magazines through LexisNexis, through RB Digital. One of those magazines is The New Yorker, and a recent article is entitled, What Shakespeare Actually Wrote About the Plague. And the author, a professor of humanities at Harvard, it's a short article, but it's the quotes from Shakespeare and explains how even when you might not have realized Shakespeare's talking about the plague and how it figures in the verse, there's also a chance to read some very beautiful verse. The author also quotes a contemporary of Shakespeare, Thomas Nash, and his poetry about the plague. It's really a marvelous article, and one thing he explains about, so this passage from Shakespeare about Franciscan brothers going to find a barefoot brother out here in the city visiting the sick, and he explains where the infectious pestilence did reign, how in so many stanzas and how the presence of the plague and death are actually in Shakespeare's verses and why. For example, Franciscan brothers had to go out two together for safety. So I recommend, getting these magazines are available. You just read an article instead of buying the whole magazine. And this article about Shakespeare and what he actually wrote about the plague, which of course is a pandemic, it is an excellent choice for reading if you want to check out the New Yorker or just the article. And I haven't read any books this week. I'm still working on Ravinia programs. And just love the ads, Pall Mall. You could buy Pall Malls in packages of 100. That's so handy. But below, they had children's programs for a new program called The Teeny Weeny Land, a pantomime. I have not found any recordings of this. I found it was copyrighted about a year after it was played at Ravinia. Quite popular, got good reviews in multiple newspapers. So if anyone knows about Marx Oberdorfer, it would be great if we could find this music too. Thank you.
Okay, that is it for us today, folks. As always, please remember that we are all here for you. We are available for comments, questions, or concerns you may have, and you can reach us online through Facebook at facebook.com/HPLibrary, through our Twitter, which is @HPLibrary, or via email at hppla@hplibrary.org. As always, you can find this information online through our website, which is hplibrary.org. Our music today was Carefree by Kevin Macleod. You can find more information about this and the titles we mentioned in the show notes below. Okay, everyone, this is us signing off. Until we see you next, stay safe.